we got a lot to go over tonight. Obviously, we're going to talk about plenty of Broncos here. We're going to talk about Bo Nix. There's a lot been said about Bo Nix and his footwork, so we're going to dive into that tonight. But before we get into it, want to go over just some news of the day type of stuff. And I'm going to start with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson goes out there with the Steelers, gets his first start, and the Steelers were 4-2 without him. Mike Tomlin decides to make a risky move and switch over to Russell Wilson against the Jets in prime time, and it paid off. Mike Tomlin had been very clear throughout the season that he was not committing to Justin Fields. A lot of people were rolling their eyes at Mike Tomlin for making the decision to go to Russell Wilson, including myself, quite frankly, because Justin Fields had put that team in a position to be competing for playoffs and more, championship type of aspirations. And it's pretty unusual to make a change at quarterback when you've got a winning team. I do think that Justin Fields had a little bit of a fool's gold going on out there, and so I understood the temptation from Mike Tomlin. But if you go back and you listen to Mike Tomlin, it should have come to no surprise to anybody that Tomlin decided to go and make the move to Russ. Look, man, even when Justin Fields was playing good football, Tomlin refused to anoint him as the starter. When Justin was doing his best, when he was out there balling, quite frankly, for Justin Fields terms, I could say that loosely, balling. Every week that would go by, Tomlin was asked a question about Russell Wilson. Hey, we'll see what he looks like when he gets back into it. We got to get the rust knocked off this guy. Russ was named team captain for the Steelers, so I don't know why any of us were really surprised when Mike Tomlin made the move to go back to Russ. And you know what? I don't know how you guys felt. I actually felt really happy for Russ that he went out there and played good football. He was a little bit rusty at the beginning, but he looked really sharp as the game went on there. And I found myself feeling happy for the dude. Look, I'm glad that Russ is no longer the Broncos quarterback. Believe me, I am. Nothing changes there. I think we all had so much Russell Wilson fatigue that it almost got to the point where you disliked the man, which was probably not fair because what did Russ ever do to anybody? But there's so many cliches and coach speak. And quite frankly, every time he spoke into a microphone, it sounded like diarrhea of the mouth. I mean, there was only so many Russell Wilson cliches that you could hear before it just exhausted you. And so we all got exhausted by Russ. And I don't know how you guys felt, but watching him go out there, I think America loves a fall from grace and America loves a redemption story. Last year for Russ and the year before, it was the fall from grace. And this year, well, it's one game, but it's a redemption story. So kind of fun to see Russ go out there and do his deal, man. He was 16 of 29, threw for 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And the Steelers are going to be a team that you do not want to see in the playoffs. They've got an identity that the Broncos need to replicate. They've got a great defense, which the Broncos have great defense. They have mediocre quarterback play, and they've got a hell of a running game. Sounds like a formula that the Broncos should try to replicate to me. Broncos did that in their last game against the Saints. Hell of a defensive performance, hell of a running game, and that was helped in large part due to Bo Nix's feet, his athleticism. Bo ran for, he had 10 attempts for 75 yards, which in the big picture, I don't want to see my quarterback running the football 10 times. Maybe dial that back to 5 or 6, and that's more sustainable. You just got too much invested in your quarterback to want to put him out there in harm's way all too often. But before I dive into, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, jumping into the Bo Nix stuff. I'm going to circle back to that. A few more just newsworthy stories to go over with you guys. There are some rumors floating out there today about a potential Matthew Staffor for Sam Darnold trade to the Vikings. Not sure how much I buy it, but if you really think about it, it's not as crazy as it sounds. Dove Kleeman, whatever that dude's name is, he put that out there today. that those two teams are in discussions for trades of their quarterback. And on the surface, it feels like, well, hold on. Why would either team want to do that? Matthew Stafford's a baller. Sam Darnold is technically unqualified. He's technically not qualified to be comeback player of the year because that's supposed to go to somebody with an injury or an off the field issue that you're bouncing back from. But he really is like the comeback player of the year in the NFL right now. Got the Vikings playing fantastic football. So why would either one of those two teams be interested in trading their quarterbacks? Well, if you're Minnesota, you're looking at things like, hey, this is the year. If there was ever a year that Minnesota was going to make a run at it, this year they got things clicking. It's crazy to me that they're doing it without Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins to me is the most underrated quarterback in NFL history, and that's not hyperbole. I actually legitimately believe that. Kirk Cousins is the most underrated quarterback in NFL history, and he's turning around that Atlanta Falcons franchise. But the Vikings are doing great without him. They did lose to the Lions 31-29 in what turned out to be a shootout, but they've been playing great football, beat the Jets 23-17, beat the Packers 31-29, go down the list. They've been playing great, even beat the San Francisco 49ers. So why would they be interested in trading Sam Darnold? Well, Matthew Stafford's better. Is it that complicated? Matthew Stafford is an elite quarterback. He is not playing like an elite quarterback this year. The stats would not necessarily say that. But if you think that Matthew Stafford still has life in him, it really would be what the Rams did 4 or 5 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. The Vikings would be doing the exact same thing. They would be going all in on one season, foregoing the future for now, for the immediate, when they feel like they've got a window. And then from the Rams' perspective, they're paying Matthew Stafford $40-some million, give or take. Sam Darnold is currently making $10 million, a 1-year, $10 million deal. Well, the going rate for a starting quarterback in the NFL right now, $50 million. That's just what it is. If you're going to give a new quarterback a contract, it's $50 million. 50. That's how much it is. But there is this kind of weird little tier of non-elite quarterbacks, like the Baker Mayfields of the world, the Geno Smiths of the world. And the going rate for those quarterbacks, probably 30-ish. $30 to $35 million. So the Rams could be looking at it like, all right, we're going to dump off Matthew Stafford, who's only got a year or two of good football left in him. We're going to bring in another high-quality quarterback that we respect, and we might be able to get him locked up in that $30 million range rather than the $50 million range. It would be a hell of a move for the Vikings. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense, because do you really want to forego the future for right now when you've got a quarterback in Sam Darnold that's playing dang good football? And oh, by the way, you got JJ McCarthy behind him, who's injured right now, but who is definitely the quarterback of the future. That actually might make it more appealing for the Vikings, though, because they might be looking at Matthew Stafford like, actually, this is perfect. You got 2 years of good football left in you, and they want JJ McCarthy to sit there and marinate and learn. It's kind of the model that the NFL is going to right now. There are a handful of teams that are saying, forget putting these young quarterbacks out there on the field right away. We actually want our young quarterback to sit and marinate and learn, do the Jordan Love. Michael Penix out there in Atlanta. JJ McCarthy, that's what Sam Darnold was brought in for. Drake May got tossed out onto the field, but the Patriots were trying to do that with Drake May as well. So just something to keep your eye on. Dove Kleeman is not the most reliable source in the world. Matter of fact, he doesn't have his own sources. He's a news aggregator. He's like Pro Football Talk. Pro Football Talk doesn't really write their own articles. They just repurpose other people's articles. That's what Dove does on Twitter. He just repurposes other people's information. So he's far from a reliable source. But that rumor picked up a lot of traction in NFL spheres today. And so I figured I would address it. I wouldn't do it if I were the Vikings, but I would definitely do it if I were the Rams. If I'm the Rams, hey, man, it's time to rebuild. Let's get younger, let's get cheaper, and you'd have a pretty good quarterback in-house. All right, get off my lawn time. Time to get off my lawn, I know. How freaking soft is Joel Embiid? Seriously. I'm going squirrel here, I'm all over the place before I get back to Bo Nix, I'm sorry. But how freaking soft is Joel Embiid? I know this, story is a few days old now, or maybe even a week or 2 old now. Joel Embiid saying that he does not see himself ever playing in a back-to-back game again, the rest of his career. And his organization has got his back. They're like, "Yeah, nah, this dude, he doesn't need to play in back-to-backs." God dang it, how pathetic is the NBA these days? Clearly, the dude had got what he needed. He became MVP. He can't do that if he wants to continue to get awards in the future because you can only miss so many games in the NBA and be an all-star or to be eligible for these awards. So he doesn't care about that. He got his MVP, and now he's gonna pack it in and say, "Nah, the rest of my career, I'm not playing in back-to-back games." It's really pathetic, man. It does make you think about the little kids that buy tickets like 6 months in advance. The parents buy little Timmy his birthday present to go see Joel Embiid. It just so happened to be on a back-to-back game, and now he's no longer gonna play in it. Joel is soft as hell. Nothing the Denver Nuggets fans don't know here, but he is pathetic, and thank God for Kevin Garnett. KG, that dude ain't playing no BS. KG's an old school son of a gun now, and I freaking loved what he had to say on his podcast with Paul Pierce. Here's what Kevin Garnett had to say about Joel Embiid.
82 games, man. This is what the fucking job calls for. You're not practicing. You're not even playing a whole fucking. You don't play in the summer. Like I said, if you playing in the summer, you on the playground. You went to the Olympics. Then it's training camp. Y'all do 30 days of fucking tour days. Okay, that's when you get rest. Man, I don't want to hear this shit, man. I don't want to hear none of this shit. Motherfucker can sit out a back-to-backs. Bro. Hey, listen, we done with that comparison of the era shit. We're going to respect this era and what it does, and that's it. Don't compare nobody and none of this shit because you can't.